Hello everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Ce matin, je veux m'adresser aux millions de
This morning,
Canadiens
I'd like
qui
to
font des
address
choix
the millions of
responsables
Canadians who are
pour
making
s'assurer
responsible
leur sécurité
decisions
et
to
celle de
ensure
leurs
their
proches.
safety and the safety
Je
of
sais
their
que cette
loved ones.
pandémie est frustrante.
I know that this pandemic has been
that
frustrating.
after 2 years, the battle against COVID-19 is still dominating so many parts of our lives. This virus affects us all. 2 of my own children have now contracted it, and this morning, I learned I tested positive for COVID-19 as well. I feel well and have no symptoms. Of course, I'll be working remotely this week, and we'll keep following public health guidelines. I want to take this opportunity to remind Canadians to please get vaccinated. It's a challenge that my family and I are facing, but there's nothing unusual or special about it. It's a challenge too many Canadians and people around the world know all too well. Durant cette pandémie, il y a des gens qui ont perdu des êtres chers.
Throughout this pandemic,
Nos
people
travailleurs
have
de la
lost
santé
loved ones.
continuent de faire un
Our
travail
healthcare
acharné.
workers are
Les
continuing to
scientifiques
work very
travaillent
hard.
jour et nuit pour
Scientists are
s'assurer
working
qu'on ait
day
des
and night
vaccins pour se
to ensure
protéger.
that we can get vaccines to keep us
This
safe.
pandemic is not over, and we have to be there for one another. And as we continue to have each other's backs, as we steel ourselves for the challenges ahead, I know you're wondering about what you saw in our capital city this weekend. As my friend Erwin Kotler said on Saturday, freedom of expression, assembly, and association are cornerstones of democracy, but Nazi symbolism, racist imagery, and desecration of war memorials are not. It is an insult to memory and truth. Hate can never be the answer. Over the past few days, Canadians were shocked and frankly disgusted by the behavior displayed by some people protesting in our nation's capital. I want to be very clear. We are not intimidated by those who hurl insults and abuse at small business workers and steal food from the homeless. We won't give in to those who fly racist flags. We won't cave to those who engage in vandalism or dishonor the memory of our veterans. La statue de Terry Fox et la tombe du soldat
The
inconnu
statue of Terry Fox
ne
and the
sont pas
tomb of the
seulement des symboles
unknown
du passé.
soldier are not only
Ce sont des
symbols of the
points
past.
marquants de notre histoire qui
They are
représentent des
important
héros
symbols
canadiens
from our
et
history
les
that represent
valeurs
Canadian
pour
heroes
lesquelles ils se sont
and the
battus.
values for which they fought.
Les sacrifices de ces héros
The
nous ont
sacrifices
donné
that
la
these
chance de
heroes
bâtir un
made
Canada
allowed
meilleur.
us to build a better Canada.
Tous les Canadiens ont le droit
All
d'exprimer leur
Canadians have the
opinion ou
right
leur
to express
désaccord
their
avec leur
opinion
gouvernement.
or their
Mais ils
disagreement
n'ont
with the
pas le
government.
droit de
But they
menacer
don't
ou
have
de
the right
harceler leurs
to
concitoyens,
threaten or
ni de
harass
propager
their
des
fellow
messages
citizens
de haine.
or to spread hateful messages.
I want to thank the many Canadians who've made donations to the Shepherds of Good Hope and to the Terry Fox Foundation in response to what they saw this weekend. There is no place in our country for threats, violence, or hatred. So to those responsible for this behavior, it needs to stop. To anyone who joined the convoy but is rightly uncomfortable with the symbols of hatred and division on display, join with your fellow Canadians. Be courageous and speak out. Do not stand for or with intolerance and hate. En ces temps difficiles, tous les politiciens doivent
In these
démontrer
difficult
du
times,
leadership
all politicians
responsable.
need to show responsible
On doit
leadership.
travailler pour rassembler les gens
We
de
need to
manière
work to bring
positive.
people together in a
On doit
positive
lutter
way.
contre la division
We need
et
to
la peur
fight division and
avec les
fear
faits.
with facts.
To the politicians exploiting people's fears, I ask you to think long and hard about the consequences of your actions. To the nearly 90% of truckers across the country who've gotten vaccinated, who continue working hard to keep us fed and keep our economy moving, thank you. Truckers have tough jobs. Long hours on the road, days away from their families. Real challenges, particularly over the past 2 years, as they've continued to step up to put food on our shelves and on our tables, to support us with life-saving medication and supplies. We have relied on you, and you can rely on us to continue to stand with you and allow you to do your jobs safely. Almost 90% of you are doing exactly that, right? Exactly that. And we thank you deeply for everything you've done. The behavior on display this weekend does not represent you. And to Canadians at home, watching in disgust and disbelief at this behavior, wondering how this could have happened in our nation's capital after everything we've been through together, This is not the story of our pandemic, of our country, of our people. Canada is strong because you are strong. Pendant près de 2 ans, les Canadiens
For
ont
nearly
fait
2
preuve de
years,
force,
Canadians have
de
shown strength,
générosité et de
generosity,
respect.
and respect.
Vous avez démontré votre
You've
courage.
shown your courage.
Vous avez fait
You've
d'énormes
made huge
sacrifices.
sacrifices.
For nearly 2 years, you've been there for each other as neighbors, friends, and fellow Canadians. I think of the moms and dads who looked after their families, the kids who stepped up in so many different ways, seniors who stayed strong in our darkest days, volunteers throughout our communities who supported our most vulnerable, frontline workers from truckers to store clerks who've kept our shelves stocked and made sure we have food on our tables, healthcare heroes who've saved countless lives and continue to do so. We know you're tired, and yet you do not stop. You inspire us. Canadians support you. We're in your corner. All of you are the story of this pandemic, not the convoy. Cette pandémie, c'est aussi
This
l'histoire de
pandemic
millions
is
de
also the
personnes qui ont
story
fait
of
les
the
bons
millions
choix,
of people who
qui se
made
sont
good
fait
choices,
vacciner et qui ont fait des
who got
sacrifices
vaccinated,
pour
and who
assurer
made
leur
sacrifices
sécurité
to ensure
et
the
celle des
safety
autres.
and the safety of others.
Je peux vous dire que je vais continuer
I can say that I
d'encourager
will
les gens à se faire
continue to
vacciner,
encourage
que
people
ce
to get
soit pour les doses
vaccinated,
de rappel ou les
whether
vaccins
it's
pour les
for
enfants.
booster
Je
shots
vais continuer
or
d'être là
vaccinations for
pour
children.
vous.
I will continue to be there for you.
I wish I could tell you that there are no more difficult moments ahead. But we all know I can't say that. What I can say is that this government will continue to have your backs. We will continue to be there for you as long as it takes, with as much as it takes. That's how we've all gotten through this pandemic so far, and that's what we and I will continue to focus on. Because we believe in you. Canadians are compassionate, kind, strong, and resilient. You elected us all to get big things done, and with the return of Parliament, we all have work to do. Later today, I'll be participating in question period, an important part of our democratic system, alongside parliamentarians who, despite threats and intimidation, will continue to serve you, Canadians, and work together to deliver results for people. This afternoon, we'll be introducing legislation to ensure we continue providing as many rapid tests as possible to the provinces and territories. And tonight, I'll be virtually addressing the House of Commons about the situation in Ukraine. I'll be talking about the importance of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law in the face of Russian provocation. In this difficult time, more than ever, we must stay true to our values, to who we are as Canadians. As Canadians, we stand up for what's right, and mostly, we stand up for each other. That's how we've gotten through this so far. That's how we'll continue to get through this. That's how we remain true to who we are. Merci, mes amis.
Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now start the question period for 20 minutes, starting with the phone today. Opératrice, c'est à vous.
Thank you, merci. Please press star 1 at this time if you have a question. S'il vous plaît, appuyez sur l'étoile 1 maintenant pour poser une question. The first question is from Mia Radson, the Canadian Press. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm wondering, a lot of the leaders or organizers of this convoy have asked to meet or at least hear from you about what's happening in their demands. Have you or will you or anyone from your government meet with them or negotiate with them in any way?
My focus is standing with Canadians and getting through this pandemic. The way to get through this pandemic is to continue making the challenging choices and sacrifices as citizens, as individuals, as communities, to keep each other safe, to trust science, to trust facts, to continue being there for each other. That is my focus. That is what I will stay focused on.
Can you explain the reason why you won't participate or meet with them? I mean, you've attended rallies on the Hill in the past, including during Black Lives Matter protest and others. Is there a reason that you can give as for why you will not discuss or have any negotiations with this particular group?
I have attended protests and rallies in the past when I agreed with the goals, when I supported the people expressing their concerns and their issues. Black Lives Matter is an excellent example of that. But I have also chosen to not go anywhere near protests that have expressed hateful rhetoric, violence towards fellow citizens, and a disrespect not just of science, but of the frontline health workers and, quite frankly, the 90% of truckers who have been doing the right thing to keep Canadians safe, to put food on our tables. Canadians know where I stand. This is a moment for responsible leaders to think carefully about where they stand and who they stand with.
Opératrice, prochaine question.
Next question.
Thank you. Merci. La prochaine question est de Laurence Martin,
The next question is
Radio-Canada.
from
La parole
Laurence
est à vous.
Martin from Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour, M. Trudeau. Je me demandais comment
Yes,
est-ce que
good
vous allez
morning, Mr.
faire
Trudeau.
pour apaiser la grogne
What are you going
mis
to
dans les
do
derniers
to
jours à Ottawa. Je
appease
comprends qu'il y a des
some of the
éléments
backlash that we've
extrémistes
seen in
dans le
Ottawa
mouvement,
in
mais il y a aussi
recent
beaucoup de gens qui ne le
days?
sont pas, qui étaient
You've
à
said that
Ottawa.
some people have
Qu'est-ce que vous
been
allez faire
violent
pour
and
apaiser
aggressive,
leur
but
colère?
many people have
Tout
not. So what are
d'abord,
you going
je
to do
pense
to
que
appease their anger?
tout le monde à travers le pays, qu'il
Answer.
soit ici à Ottawa ou non,
First of all,
est
I think that
frustré.
everyone across the country,
tout le monde a de la
in
grogne, tout le
Ottawa
monde
or
est tanné
elsewhere,
de cette pandémie.
is frustrated.
Tout le monde est
Everyone is
épuisé,
sick
tout le
of
monde
this
veut que ça en
pandemic.
finisse.
Everyone is tired. Everyone wants
Tout
to
le
be
monde
done with
voudrait
it.
bien qu'on puisse dire « OK, c'est fini,
Everyone
puis
would
qu'on
love to be
retourne
able to say,
à
okay,
ce qu'on
it's
ce qu'on
over.
voudrait faire.
And move on.
Mais la vaste
But
majorité
the
des
vast
Canadiens
majority of Canadians,
savent que c'est pas en rouspétant
know
qu'on va finir
that
cette pandémie,
that's not how we can end this
c'est en se faisant
pandemic.
vacciner.
The way out of this pandemic
C'est en
is getting
écoutant
vaccinated.
les meilleurs conseils de santé publique.
It's listening to public health
Et
advice.
la meilleure façon qu'on va pouvoir passer à travers,
And the best
la
way
meilleure façon qu'on va pouvoir continuer d'être
to
là
get
les
out
uns
of
pour
this
les autres, c'est
pandemic and to
justement
continue to be there for each
en
other
démontrant qu'on comprend
is to
l'importance
show that we
de
understand
suivre la
the
science,
importance of
les faits,
following science
les experts en
facts,
santé,
and health
les
experts.
experts en santé publique. C'est comme ça qu'on va sortir de cette pandémie.
That's how we'll get out of this pandemic.
Et c'est sur ça que je vais me concentrer.
And that's what I'm going to
En
focus
civil,
on.
Laurence?
A follow-up question?
Certains vous accusent d'avoir politisé
Some
la
people have
question de la
accused you of
vaccination
politicizing
obligatoire,
the question
durant la
of
campagne
mandatory
électorale. Qu'est-ce que
vaccination
vous répondez
during
à ceux qui
the
disent
election
que vous portez
campaign.
une partie de la
What would you say to those who say that you
responsabilité
share
pour la
part of
grogne
the responsibility for the anger that we've
Les
seen over this
Canadiens
issue?
ont choisi de se faire vacciner
Canadians
à un taux plus
chose to
élevé
get vaccinated,
que presque
and they
n'importe
did
quel
so at a
autre
higher
pays
rate than in
dans le
almost
monde.
any other country in the world.
On a vu à chaque étape
At every
les
step,
Canadiens choisir
we have
d'être là
seen
les uns pour
Canadians
les autres.
choosing to be there for each
En
other.
plus d'avoir un taux de vaccination plus élevé que beaucoup
Not
de
only
nos
do we
pays
have a higher
pairs,
vaccination rate than many of our peer
on a
countries,
aussi pu protéger et notre système de santé
we've also been
et
able to protect
nos
our
aînés,
healthcare system
et
and our seniors,
voir rebondir notre économie de la
and
bonne
we've been
façon.
able to get our economy
Je
going
comprends